Under what circumstance, if any, are limitations on freedom of expression like your limitation right now? Shh. You don't have rights in school. Sorry. Justifiable.
Yeah, listen, shut up. He's not
That
going
applies
to
to you
say
too. To individuals and society. The cause, you may begin.
In the words of constitutional framer and the namesake of this university, George Mason, no free government or the blessings of liberty can be preserved to any people but by a firm adherence to justice, moderation, and temperance. In absolute terms, the First Amendment would create too vast of a freedom for the people of our country. As the amendment has developed, the question has become, how must our freedom of expression be tempered to most efficiently serve our society's needs?
This question is rooted in the ancient ideas of classical republicanism versus natural rights, or the balance between one's individual rights and the common good. Brandenburg v. Ohio established the doctrine of imminent lawless action, which allows for the restriction of expression when it results in immediate illegal behavior which might endanger members of the community. In such instances, it is justifiable that the content of one's expression is limited.
In 1941, Cox v. New Hampshire recognized that while the content of the expression may sometimes be beyond governmental reach, the manner in which it is expressed can be regulated by time, place, and manner restrictions in order to ensure public safety. The Supreme Court upheld the idea that when the exercise of one's rights conflicts with another's rights, restrictions are acceptable.
Regardless of the form, the government must have compelling state interest which prohibits it from arbitrarily making laws to infringe upon our rights. For example, in Texas v. Johnson, the court ruled that Texas's state interest preventing the burning of an American flag was not substantial enough to limit the statement such an action makes.
It is not preferable to use single standards for different forms of expression. This would oversimplify the issue by placing the highest forms of expression, such as political speech and hate speech, on the same level of importance as lower forms, such as obscenity. Through its many decisions, the Supreme Court has developed several levels of scrutiny. Speech is given strict scrutiny, which requires any limitations to be narrowly tailored to fit the issue. However, under Roth v. United States, obscene expression is viewed on rational basis, according to community ideals.
Separate standards are also necessary depending on the setting. Because schools are limited public forums, we give up certain First Amendment rights within the freedoms of our high school. However, these restrictions must be viewpoint neutral, even if they are not content neutral. These shades of restrictions further demonstrate different standards that already exist in our society when limiting our freedoms.
As current Chief Justice John Roberts stated in his majority opinion of United States v. Stevens, the First Amendment itself reflects a judgment by the American people that the benefits of its restrictions outweigh the costs. African Americans not only use their freedoms of speech and assembly, but their freedom of religious exercise in their protests of segregation. This made it possible for the children to gather at the 16th Street Baptist Church to begin their famous Children's Crusade that eventually led to the desegregation era.
Our freedoms are better appreciated when compared with other nations. In October of 2012, 14-year-old Malala Yousafzai was shot by the Taliban for advocating women's education rights. Additionally, in Iran, Pastor Yosef Nadarkhani was controversially sentenced to death because he converted to Christianity, demonstrating the nation's refusal to allow citizens to express themselves through free religious practices. Around the globe, other nations do not receive the benefits of the First Amendment rights.
Groups such as the Westboro Baptist Church infamously protest controversial issues, such as the Gay Straight Alliance Club at Reno High School during our freshman year. However, they do so in a completely constitutional manner, showing the cost of one's freedom of expression may be offensive to another. As stated in the majority opinion of Snyder v. Phelps, as a nation we have chosen a different course, to protect even hurtful speech on public issues to ensure that we do not stifle public debate.
Although there is a fine line between one individual's freedom of expression and another's, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes stated in his dissent in Abrams v. United States, "The ultimate good is desired is better reached by free trade in ideas, that the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market." Thank you.
414. Go ahead. Okay, sure. What's the difference between speech and conduct? Where is that line drawn? Where should we draw it?
That's a good question.
Speech is what you say, or like what you're expressing, whereas conduct is more of an action you're taking to express it instead of just advocating for it.
Our Bill of Rights definitely restricts one's conduct more than it would restrict our speech. For example, the case of Brandenburg v. Ohio established imminent lawless action, which states that even though what you're saying might encourage lawless behavior, you can't punish someone for just saying something. There needs to be an imminent lawless action or illegal conduct that comes from the speech.
However, cases such as, okay, they definitely protect some forms of action, like burning a draft card. Not burning a draft card, sorry. But Texas v. Johnson allows you to take the action to burn a flag, which is a way of expressing yourself through action. So the First Amendment does protect conduct as well as speech, but not to as much of an extent.
It also protects conduct in the form of clothes and tattoos as well. I mean, just as an example, I could wear a shirt, protest, or, that has the communist flag on it if I wanted to, and that's okay here. I can't get in trouble for that.
What about if you're at school?
Yes, there was a club here that actually made communist shirts and wore them around. The FBLA club made capitalist shirts. They made FBLA made capitalist shirts, and this club, I can't remember which one it was. They made it communist shirts in protest of it.
Also in the Supreme Court case, Tinker v. Des Moines, the Tinker twins, it was just that they were allowed to wear armbands in protest against the Vietnam War, and this was a form of expression. Even though they were in school, it was still okay for them to do that.
So what are the costs to freedom of expression?
Oh, the costs are that there are sometimes there are people that maybe a majority of people don't agree with, and people are allowed to say it. For example, was the Westboro Baptist Church. They're allowed to. An infamous example is how they're allowed to protest funerals as long as they're standing on the sidewalk. And so there are these examples how anyone can express whatever they want, and that just because majority of people don't agree with it, but they still have the right to do so.
Also, another example would be in trials, the public's right to attend a trial, and especially the media, their right to have speech about that trial, which can sometimes impede the justice and fairness of that trial.
Let's go back to schools a little bit. What ways do schools limit your expression, or in some way, how does school allow expression? What's kind of the way it falls on schools? Is there any case law that you guys know?
One limit is seen in Bethel School District v. Fraser, where a student gave a speech full of sexual innuendos and was suspended as a result. The Supreme Court upheld this because in a school you have a closed
Closed forum.
limited public forum, so the teachers can limit what students can say.
The definition of a limited public forum is that it does not have to be content neutral, which means that not all subjects have to be allowed to be discussed. However, it has to be viewpoint neutral, so that once those subjects are discussed, both sides of the issue need to be able to be expressed.
Additionally, the case of TLO v. New Jersey established en loco parentis, which states that the school steps in the role of a guardian when you're at school, and this is definitely applied to Fourth Amendment rights, but it can also be applied to expression, and you can't say everything just because you're at school.
I'm the editor-in-chief of our high school's newspaper, The Red and Blue, and that gives me and my editors and my fellow staffers a chance to express our views and what we want to and what we believe in. But we are under the Supreme Court case of Hazelwood v. Kuhlmeyer. We are also restricted in that we are content neutral. We are content neutral. No. We are content neutral, right?
Viewpoint neutral.
We're viewpoint neutral, but not content neutral. So we are restricted with the stories that we can write. But if we choose to write about the Republican Club, then we also have to write about the Democratic Club.
So let me dovetail on this while we're talking about school. As a teacher,
am I limited? Am I limited in terms of my expression? And then the question after that becomes, should I be? This isn't like a personal opinion question, so you can throw it out here.
And it's not about just Mr. Mack.
No, it's just in general sense. Like as a teacher, you've afforded saying I have control, I'm locus parentis, but is my speech / expression limited? Or can I do whatever the hell I want?
Well, it's definitely limited. I know that for like presidential elections, teachers are not allowed to say who they're voting for, so that's.
We're not.
No, they can't. That's not written at all. That's more of a.
It's just arbitrary.
Also, because you work for the federal government, there are some restrictions that way that you can't, as long as you're in a public school district, you can't promote one religion over any other, and you can't do certain regulations that the federal government has put upon you because you are a federal employee, or I guess a governmental employee, in this case, a state employee.
Let's say hypothetically that a government agency has a rule that employees are not allowed to put political paraphernalia on at their desks or anything, like no Obama or Romney stickers or anything like that. And a supervisor who happens to be an Obama supporter sees a Romney sticker on the employee's desk, and then fires him for it. Is that speech protected? Does the First Amendment protect him against that retaliation?
Can you be fired?
Can he be fired for that as a federal?
No.
Why
Under
not?
a case, I think something to do with Snyder, it says that as long as you're acting as a private citizen, then your speech is protected, even if you're a federal employee. It's once you are acting out under like the name of being in the, I'm not 100% sure how it's worded, but it's that once you're acting as an employee, like if you're acting in the figure of an employee, then you can't. But if it's in the view of a private citizen, then you're allowed to. In that case, because it's a personal view, as long as they're not for, I guess, teaching the kids, specifically swaying kids towards
This
one.
isn't a school, it's just a government agency.
Oh, government. Then yeah, it's because it's private citizen, then they can't.
But according to that case, they are acting in their role at the workplace as a governmental.
As long as it doesn't hinder the workplace, like the function of the workplace, then it is okay to do.
You're sure?
Yeah, I was
What about in the
looking
state
at
of Nevada? If I work for the state of Nevada and my boss says we can't do that, and I ultimately do it, and I'm fired, can I be fired?
The state of Nevada is a right to work state.
Which means
Has
what?
nothing to do with Nevada state government though. I didn't
Well,
even shit you know like that.
right to work state means that an employee may fire or employers may fire their employees for no reason because they have not joined a union
Without just cause.
without just cause.
You wanna stop right there?
Yeah, we'll stop.
The term that you're thinking of is they have to act as an agent of the entity.